will. But I'd be trying to squeeze some more money out of these networks for basketball as well. Because when's the last time the Big Ten won a national championship in basketball?
Michigan State was the last one, right?
Yeah, Mateen Cleaves in a galaxy far, far away a long, long time ago.
Whew.
So Michigan's had some near misses, but, they missed. And so the Big Ten has not won a national championship in basketball in a long time.
When's the last time they've actually played? Have they played in a championship game?
Yeah. Michigan did a couple times under John Beilein. And so, and lost them both. But, again, and Illinois played for one against North Carolina. When Bruce Weber was left a bunch of players by Bill Self. But, it is what it is. They haven't won them, though. And
right.
so, and if I'm the SEC, I'm just trying to control collegiate athletics as a whole. And you already know your football's better. I don't care, how much money the Big Ten's getting out of these big markets. If these people want to watch the Big Ten and watch the Bush Leagues instead of the major leagues, that's their own fault. But, it's the SEC's the major leagues, and everybody knows it.
All right, 256-576-4977. That is the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. So if you have $350 million lying around and you, too, want to get in on the bidding war that is for college football, that's all it's going to take for you to get a second-tier Big Ten game. $350 million. Again, ESPN paid $300 million to get the top-tier SEC game in 2020. So that just tells you how much college football is driving the bus as far as the Big Ten is hoping to top $1 billion when they ink this new deal. All right, that's how we get going. The other thing that came out yesterday after our show, we told you that the first polls were going to be coming out, and they did indeed. The coaches poll came out yesterday. Alabama, number 1 in the preseason, followed by Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Notre Dame. We'll go over the entire poll here in just a little bit. Texas A&M is in there in the polls as well. They come in at number 7, Georgia number 3, Kentucky 21, Arkansas 23, Ole Miss 24. The SEC leads the poll with 6 ranked teams, but the surprise out of everything, Alabama got 54 of the 66 first-place votes. But some Yahoo coach, Drew, voted Texas number 1 with 1 vote.
Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, he graduated from there. That'd be my guess. I think Sark's going to make that kind of improvement in year 2. And I've heard some of the Texas fans talking about they're going to be Joe Burrow and LSU. I think they better have a DVD ready and just sort of watch it because I don't anticipate them being that good. Because from what I understand, we're going to talk with C.J. Vogel in a few minutes at 8 o'clock from the Football Brainiacs. I don't know that from what I'm hearing, I don't think the quarterback position is decided yet. And when you're talking about Hudson Card, who started some last year, and then the great Quinn Ewers, who was supposed to be the Messiah coming out of high school, if he can't separate from Hudson Card, is that good or bad? So, I believe in Sark as a quarterback coach. Okay, I know he's going to put these QBs in the best position to succeed, but again, they were so last year, and so not real sure how good they're going to be.
Could Quinn Ewers be on the same path as a Spencer Rattler, where we have seen and heard so much expectations for him, the NIL deals coming out of high school, going into college, Spencer Rattler, if Quinn Ewers, could they be on that same? Are they one in the same?
It's hard for me to say because we've seen Spencer play and he's actually produced in games. Quinn Ewers barely played at Ohio State, and the things I heard behind the scenes weren't flattering. Like they didn't expect him to ever beat out C.J. Stroud. He wasn't even going to push him.
Right.
So,
I mean, and this guy comes out of high school, Quinn Ewers did, and I mean,
the number one
reason
player in
why
the country.
he went to Ohio State early was to take advantage of the name, image, and likeness deals he was getting.
Well, and at the time, Texas was a dumpster fire. They're just a smolder. They're not smoldering right now. They're just they're rebuilding, retooling. Are they better now? They have a different head coach who's setting a tone. You know, and then Ewers decided to come back home because he grew up a Texas fan, and a lot of people thought that's where he would end up originally. So we'll see. And again, Sark has proven with what he's done offensively as an OC. Now, as a head coach, it's been mediocre. But again, Quinn Ewers, I think, I'm not ready to say he's going to burst upon the scene like a Joe Burrow. But remember, Joe Burrow was good as a first-year player at LSU, and he was transcendent as a second-year player.
Right.
So I'm not anticipating in year one Quinn Ewers being a Heisman candidate. Let's just put it like that. Texas needs to shoot for 8-4, and whoever picked them number one needs a lobotomy because that's not going to happen. They're not nearly that good, in my opinion. Not from the people that I talk to and trust. I think Texas isn't going to improve, and I've said this on the show before. I think they were 5-7 last year, and they lost to Kansas. They lost to Kansas,
Right.
a team that lets people in for free. And that was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was even in Austin. It wasn't even where they let you in for free because the basketball team's scrimmaging in the other place. So I'm just saying, Texas was a definite work in progress last year. They got to get better. They've got to learn that tackling's not a disease, and they've got to get more physical. I think they're recruiting well right now under Sark. They got a top 10 class, but again, they've got to show improvement. And I think improvement is going from, I think they went 5-7, no postseason last year, is going 8-4 and going to a bowl game.
All right, something to keep in mind. Now, you mentioned Steve Sarkisian has proven it as a coordinator. As a head coach, Steve Sarkisian has never had a 10-win season.
No.
He's had an 8-4 season. He's had a 9-4 season at USC, but he has never had a double-digit win season as a head coach. At Washington, now he walked into a tough situation there.
0-12.
5-7, 7-6, 7-6, 7-6, 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
At USC, 9-4 and 3-2, and then that's when he had to step away from football. And then at Texas, 5-7. That is Steve Sarkisian as a head coach, record-wise.
Yeah, it's been mediocre.
All right, Jeff from the Borough with us on the phone lines. Good morning, Jeff.
How's it going, guys?
Good
morning.
I was going to ask you guys, did Sankey at Media Days joke about 10 games? There's a guy down there who wrote a column, said he joked about 10 games. Pittman said he was for the 9-game schedule, said give the fans what they want. They're buying tickets and all this, good football and fans and all this business. Did he kind of joke around about that at Media Days?
A little bit.
Didn't. I mean, he talked a little bit about the schedule, but I don't know. I don't think he joked around a little bit. I mean, he talked about the schedules a little bit, but I mean,
because a guy wrote a column down here was talking about. He said they actually did it. He was talking about going through, and of course he went through each team in the league. He was talking about. He said they could play five permanent rivals, and they could rotate, 5 teams every other year and play. And then he went through each school and gave the 5 opponents he thought they should rotate through every year and things. And then he joked around. He said, "Well, why don't Sankey make it 11 games? And I'll have to go back to the drawing board and all this other stuff, talking about how they can take away cupcakes and all this other, all this other stuff, blah blah blah, and all this other mess, stuff like that." I know some certain fan bases don't want to play him. I know. I mean, I know that's true, right?
Well, Jeff, he was talking about if there's continued realignment, and then and also with the new television deals that are being put in place. He was talking about that they may have to revisit their scheduling model because they have not made any permanent decisions, even though it looks like Oklahoma and Texas are going to join this league in 2025. Now, they could join earlier. It definitely doesn't look like it's not going to be 2023, I don't think. but could be 24 or 20 if it's early. But right now, if things don't change, it'll be 2025. And again, as Sankey said, USC and UCLA came out of there, all of a sudden moving from, the land of fruits and nuts to the Big Ten. And so now that's changed the Big Ten scheduling model. It's changed the landscape of college football. And the same thing could happen with the SEC if some more realignment happens.
I would think the SEC would love, and if they could pull it off, if the powers to be could make it happen, I think the SEC would love to have Texas and Oklahoma in by 2024 when the new television right deal kicks into place. And I'm sure there have been discussions behind the scenes that if they can get this happen, this is what the scheduling format would look like. And, we sit here and say they'd love to have it. I guarantee you they've probably already had discussions on how to make it happen and what they could get it done and what the schedules would look like in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, like I told you guys before, if they wanted to get out in 2024, just say that when you leave. Don't say 2025 then. Just say 2024 and be done with it. So they should have said, just you go with what you say. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you don't, you might as well rip up every pile on the book, rip up all of them, because it don't make no sense.
Well, it's like somebody that plays in the NFL. If they want to leave a team, their contract is valid for another 3 years, but they want out in a year and a half. They work it out behind the scenes to get them out of there early. It's no different than this. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma have to stay in till 2025 legally, but they can go to the tables and work out an early exit strategy or an exit and buy them out and be out of there early. There's no difference.
Yeah, they want to pay $100 million. Whether they want to pay $100 million, if they want to pay.
That's why they sit there and meet to discuss that. Yeah, if they want to pay the money.
Well, think about obviously with this guy, USC and USLA. Okay, they left the Pac-10 for the Big Ten. I mean, what I understand, UCLA, they say, is in debt. Their athletic department, so they got less money now, I guess. Well, what makes you think when they get more money with the Big Ten, they're going to be good stewards of that money when they can't handle the money they got now coming in?
Well, that's because the television rights and everything else that the Pac-12 have is pennies. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally pennies. I mean, you're going to be what did we say? $100 million every year.
But what makes you think they can handle that money when they can't handle stuff they got now?
Well, I don't know, Jeff. That's going to be a great question. Hopefully, some of these idiots will be voted out in November. To be honest with you.
What it's called? It's called if you're an AD balancing your budget. You know what I'm saying? When it comes in, you got to balance your budget. You got to take care of all of it. You can't worry about football and tell everybody else to go to you know where.
Well, that's why I think they're making the jump to the Big Ten, so they are worrying about other sports. They've already said that if they didn't join the Big Ten, they were going to be cutting a lot of the Olympic sports.
Because Larry Scott was a moron.
Yeah.
He probably voted for Joe.
They won over 100 national. They've got trophy cases with nothing but national championship trophies in them. So I think they're doing all right. I wouldn't worry about no money. They're going to be all right. So I wouldn't worry about if they want to jump to Big Ten, that's their business. But I wouldn't want to myself. But I mean, that's just the way. It's just the way college athletics is. It's not something. Like I say, it's not something I like it, but it is a reality. So. But I just want to ask y'all about the scheduling thing. So y'all have a good one. See y'all.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh, words of wisdom. Jeff from the Burrow. Always such full of wisdom.
Wisdom and Burrow don't go together unless it's Joe Burrow instead of Jeff.
Oh,
that's all I'll say.
We need to Brett Drinkard's asking, though, is there a probation period when colleges change conferences?
Not if you come up with enough money.
Yeah. If you come up with enough money
and redo the schedule,
you can move anytime that you want. And I mean, look how fast we had those Conference USA schools go to the AAC and vice versa.
Within a year, Jacksonville State will be in Conference USA. They'll have spend a year in the ASUN.
Yeah, there's no probation period. If you got the money, you can make anything happen. All right, we got to get a break in. When we come back, need to talk a little Oklahoma football.
Yeah, we do. Joey Helmer.
Stuff.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Good morning from the traffic center. Got a couple of wrecks now. 72 in Watercress, no injury. And in Decatur, 6th and Magnolia, also reported as a no injury. Had a vehicle fire, 336 northbound I-65, a motorcycle there. They were waiting on a tow. And we had shots fired on Oldfield off Lily Flag. Apparently they're in a standoff situation there. Dr. Sandman has the Somnodent, a safe, insurance-approved alternative for snoring and sleep apnea. Dr. Sandlin, 350-CARE. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
What's better than Valley Equipment Rental? Two Valley Equipment Rentals, and that's just what we have now. The original on the South Memorial Parkway between Drake and Airport Road, and their second location on North Memorial Parkway just north of Winchester Road. Valley Equipment is locally owned and has more skid steers, excavators, and lifts than anyone in the area, plus all the small tools that you need to get the job done like a pro. And if you are a pro, you need to check out the new North location now because Valley Equipment has what you need. Learn more at valleyequipmentrents.com.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. You know, you'll hear people say we're like a family, but here at the Lackey Law Firm, that's really true, not just a saying.
I'm Justin Lackey. With my father and my sister, we have a special connection to each other.
I'm Jennifer Lackey. At the Lackey Law Firm, when we take on your case, you become part of our family. You really do.
And we'll always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life. More important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other, and at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hi everybody, Eli Gold here. Right now, indoor air quality occupies top-of-mind awareness for families and business owners. Rick Smith and the trusted professionals at Environmental Comfort Systems can take care of your indoor air quality concerns with their state-of-the-art indoor air quality solutions. Environmental Comfort's indoor air quality systems remove 99.9% of airborne contaminants so you and your family can breathe clean, fresh air. If anyone in your family suffers from allergies, or if you just want the security of knowing the air you breathe inside your home is free from viruses, bacteria, pet dander, dust, and odors, Environmental Comfort Systems are the professionals to call. Environmental Comfort also carries state-of-the-art, high-efficiency comfort systems that increase home comfort, keep humidity in check, and help you save money on your energy bills. Give my friend Rick a call or visit them online at envcomfort.com and breathe cleaner air today. Environmental Comfort Systems, Alabama license number 92314.
Listen to the Tom Abraham Show.
And he loves fishing.
I hadn't called in during your show lately, but just wanted to say hi. It's just amazing. It's great people y'all have and the great personalities and all the talent. And we're lucky in this area to have you guys.
Listen to the Big Dog, weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Guys, when we were 20, we never had to worry about spontaneity. And now that we've gotten older, spontaneity has been replaced with pills and injections. We're just trying to keep that intimacy but it's taken away from spontaneity. At Advanced Life Clinic, we now offer GainsWave, which uses sound waves to non-invasively treat this issue with no need for pills or injections. Just give us a call, 256-888-9367, or check us out online, advancedlifeclinic.com.
This is Chuck Oliver. Listen to me coming up at noon today. Now, back to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Scott Tyson, Drew DeArmond with you until 9 a.m. on this Tuesday morning. And we talked a little bit about the coaches' poll in that first segment and the new television rights for the Big Ten going forward and where you'll be able to watch all of it competing with the SEC. And not long, Oklahoma Sooners will be a part of the SEC. Will it be 2024? Will it be 2025? That we know the latest will be 2025, but it could be sooner. But the Oklahoma Sooners also in the news over the past 48 hours as well. It's been a very up and down week to start for Brent Venables.
Yes, it has, unfortunately. And if you're a child of the 80s and 90s like I am, and you followed college football very closely, I mean, I used to, I had a very close family friend who I used to stay with a lot. My parents traveled, and he was a Oklahoma guy, and he used to let me read his Sooners Illustrated. So when I was growing up following Alabama, I also followed Oklahoma very closely. And I remember vividly the Gundy brothers coming up in the state of Oklahoma from Midwest City. And first Mike came along in the late 80s and handed off to some cat named Barry Sanders and, over at Oklahoma State and led them to, some really good seasons in the late 80s, but everybody knew that in the Bedlam series, OU and Barry Switzer kind of controlled that state and that conference. But anyway, Mike Gundy becomes the QB, and then his brother follows him at Midwest City, and then goes to the other side of the state. Goes from Stillwater. Instead of going to Stillwater and following his brother, he goes to Oklahoma and becomes a great quarterback in his own mind. And really then, from 1990 on, was a part of the OU football program, except for when he first started his coaching career and spent a couple years at UAB. He was a guy that was a big part of that Sooner coaching staff and helped Bob Stoops rebuild it into a national championship program in 2000, and then was there under Lincoln Riley and was going to be a big part of it as the wide receivers coach and co-OC under Brent Venables, but now has resigned. And we're going to talk about that and OU football heading into this year in this new era under Brent Venables with a first-time guest on the show from Oklahoma, OU 247, and that is Joey Helmer, and he's with us on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Joey, welcome to Huntsville with Drew and Scott. How are you?
I'm doing good, and good morning, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Yeah, it's been an interesting, to say the least, an interesting 48 hours for Brent Venables.
Yeah, it has been a shocking 48 hours. I don't think any of us saw this coming. It's just totally unexpected. You kind of went through the Gundy's family growing up, and this is, if you had asked me one guy on staff that this would have happened to, or would have been involved in something like this, Kel Gundy would have been at the very bottom of the list. So it's absolutely stunning, and the timing of it, of course, is very interesting too, because you've already got camp started up, and now you have an interim wide receiver coach in LaDainian Washington, and he has to be certainly considered for that position full time. But if you're looking outside the program, again, teams have already started practice, so it makes it interesting from a timeline standpoint.
And Joey, to reiterate, I know he took over the wide receiver room. Is he going to be the co-OC? What was his exact title besides wide receivers coach?
Yeah, LaDainian Washington will just coach the receivers, but Kel Gundy was the assistant head coach.
Gotcha. Okay.
In wide receivers coach. He obviously has coached both running backs and receivers in his extended time at Oklahoma. And I think potentially where this could hurt the most if they don't solidify the position long term in a fairly short amount of time is from a recruiting standpoint. Kel Gundy is fundamental in a number of guys' recruitments, and you see that in outpouring of support from guys like Joe Mixon and Adrian Peterson, and a lot of other guys. D.D. Westbrook being another, the first Blitnikoff winner at Oklahoma, has been instrumental in so many of those guys' lives. And so, from a recruiting standpoint, I think is maybe where you worry the most for Oklahoma here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all this kind of in 2 days is overshadowed what was supposed to be, a great stepping stone for Brent Venables to come in and get this team ready for camp. His first camp, as head coach of Oklahoma, kind of took a little bit of that lust away.
Certainly, and it's been positive ever since Brent Venables and the new staff arrived on campus in December and January, and it's been all kind of on the way up. You had heard some people questioning Oklahoma's recruiting during that early summer period, but then they just blew up in July and had a fantastic month, and everything was positive, and now boom. It's like for Brent Venables, welcome to being head coach at the University of Oklahoma. About the last possible thing he could have expected, and like you mentioned, it does sap a lot of that positive energy right now out of a program that was nothing but positive over the last few months.
And Kel Gundy's a guy that was always loyal. He certainly did not follow Lincoln Riley out the door, because just following the fallout of that and then going forward, a lot of bitterness by folks, and I can understand it with the way Lincoln Riley left.
Yeah, absolutely. Kel Gundy has been that one of those guys that has been a solidifier for Oklahoma. He was absolutely last winter when things went down with Lincoln Riley, and obviously, again, helped with Oklahoma maintaining their recruiting class that they had. And it's just, it really is hard to see on so many levels. It's crazy. Yeah, I think the timeline aspect of it, again, I get back to the fact that it's right in the middle of fall camp, and not only that, it broke when Kel released his statement. It was at 11 o'clock at night the other night.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, that's right.
It's unbelievable on so many levels. This story. I've covered some interesting stories in my time writing about Oklahoma, but this is among the top in terms of the shock factor here.
Well, if this didn't happen, if this was not a part of what you had to write the last 48 hours, what would you be writing about for Oklahoma camp so far?
Well, we'd be doing some of what we're doing, but a lot of position battles right now. Everyone wants to know how's the defense coming together. I expect an uptick there. I don't think they're going to get to that elite level necessarily in the first season here with Brent Venables and Ted Roof as the defensive coordinator, but there's battles on that side of the ball that are really interesting. I think that the fact that Oklahoma is really starting to build some depth defensively. We've talked about not only Oklahoma having a 2-deep, but a 3-deep, and that's important when you look at the way that Brent Venables is going to want to run his defense here. And on the offensive side of the ball, they're filling in for a couple of new starters. Tyrese Robinson and Marquise Hayes are out of the program now, and now you're bringing in a couple of new starters there. And then the quarterback position is interesting as well. Dylan Gabriel's arrival has been well documented, but what's happening behind him is very interesting. With Davis Bevel and then General Booty and Nick Evers, a talented true freshman that they brought in, who's going to win that backup quarterback battle. So all those things are really interesting to follow. Right now will be, of course, following all of those once they settle down a little bit more here in the coming days.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. And it's interesting, too, with the new OC. We saw him up close and personal under Lane Kiffin, Jeff Lebby. He did a great job with Matt Corral at Ole Miss, and going to be interesting to see what he does going back to his alma mater at OU.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And fans should be really excited for what Oklahoma is going to do. They're going to be up-tempo. You guys are no stranger, like you said, to seeing Jeff Lebby's offenses.
Mm-hmm.
They work fast. They're going to pound the rock. They're going to work off the run game and take their shots downfield accordingly. So it's going to be a fun offense to watch, I think, for Oklahoma. And Lebby's been quite successful, not only in his time at Ole Miss, but at UCF before that. So Oklahoma certainly has a very, very good offensive coordinator that is going to be able to be innovative in a lot of ways as well. And I think it's exciting what they're going to have on that side of the ball with the playmakers that Dylan Gabriel is going to be able to spread the ball to here.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about that quarterback spot, Dylan Gabriel comes from over there with UCF, but does it make it easier for Oklahoma fans? I mean, seeing that Lincoln Riley left, went to USC, and took his quarterback, Caleb Williams, with him, however we want to call it, took him with him. Does it make it easier that it is a new offensive coordinator and completely new quarterback?
It does, because nobody has a better understanding of Jeff Lebby's offense than Dylan Gabriel does. And when you're talking about the install, this is a new offense that everyone is trying to learn. And your signal caller, when he knows it, is able to kind of be that second coach on the field and kind of explain things to his teammates. And so it's very valuable. I think that's something that's been talked about quite a bit throughout this off season, and it should manifest itself at least in some way. That's valuable. There's no doubt about it.
Joey Helmer from Oklahoma 247, OU 247. And what are the expectations going into year one for Brent Venables? This is an interesting change because certainly Lincoln Riley had a lot of success. He got to the playoff, but he didn't quite get over the hump. He won the Big 12, but he never got to the national championship game. He missed an opportunity in 2017 when they had a nice lead on Georgia at halftime in the Rose Bowl. But it seemed as though what would be the best way to categorize what Lincoln Riley's tenure was like at OU?
Interesting, to say the least. I think you look, and it's quite fair to say that they regressed during Lincoln Riley's tenure, even though they won the Big 12 still with regularity. And last year was the only year that they did not do so. But it just, you look, and the level of play on the defensive side of the ball got worse. It's hard to see it any other way. And yet Lincoln Riley was still really successful in Oklahoma. About the one blemish is that they didn't win a playoff game. They should have won a playoff game in 2017 when they blew that game against Georgia in the Rose Bowl, that epic game out there in Pasadena. But it just was such an interesting 5 years when you look back at it, and a lot of things from last year make sense when you see that Riley was quite obviously looking out to the West, and Oklahoma was so inconsistent. They could never really get things together last year. So it was just a really inconsistent and interesting era. There's no doubt about it.
When we all, in human nature, when we all get jobs, we have that short-term disease where we just don't really care about where we are at because we're looking ahead to where we're going. Is Oklahoma, do they really even care about the Big 12 right now? I know they got to compete in the Big 12. They got to play in the Big 12, but they have eyes on the SEC. They're coming. Are they even really interested in the Big 12?
I think there's a large degree of looking towards the future and preparing your program for what you're going to go up against in the SEC, without question. Oklahoma they're focused on winning the Big 12, though. That's where they're at right now, at least for another year, 2, 3. I don't think it's going to go to 2025. I would be absolutely shocked. But, yeah, they didn't win the Big 12 last year. Again, they're a program that has won this league the majority of the time. I think it's 14 of 26 years. And so that's an expectation. That's almost the minimum around here. And this is a team that I expect to be in the Big 12 championship. I've had Oklahoma and Baylor as my prediction. And I think a lot of people, even though it's Venables' first season, they're expecting that. A team that can compete and win the Big 12 and potentially fight their way into the college football playoff again. But the over-under win total is 9.5, and so anything above 10 wins, I think, would be considered a successful first season without question.
And then, Joey, Brent Venables' history has been interesting. He helped that OU team win it all in 2000 over Florida State, and he was a big part of that program for many years before deciding to branch out on his own with Clemson and go to help Dabo Swinney win a couple of championships. He's passed on opportunities to be a head coach, including at Auburn and others, and been outspoken about it. But ultimately, he comes back to OU. Was it mostly familiarity, and then just and the past history and knowing what this program is capable of is do you think is the reason that he decided to finally take that jump and become a head coach?
I think he's kind of always had his eyes on this program being the one he would be a head coach for.
Gotcha.
After his time being at Oklahoma for so long, he loved it here, and he that decision for him to go to Clemson was very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was a circumstantial decision, something that was better for his career at the time. I think he wouldn't have been really given credit if Oklahoma, coming off that 2011 season, they had kind of struggled defensively, and they brought Mike Stoops back, and I think he would have got the credit had he come back and they've been better. And so Venables took a step in his career that was the right step, bettered himself, was under Dabo Swinney for a decade, and prepared himself to now be the head coach at Oklahoma.
Yeah, and then finally, we're going to wrap it up with Joey Helmer. I know you kind of mentioned short term. You've mentioned some long term. You're a little worried about the recruiting impact this could have without Cale Gundy. Give us a little insight into the now that the change at this time of training camp. It's a difficult one, but what are they expecting inside the building? I know this is not going to be seamless, but going forward and trying to stabilize this program, losing a linchpin like Gundy.
Well, LaDamian Washington is now the interim
Right.
wide receivers coach, and I could tell I got a chance to be out at practice for about an hour yesterday, and he was get after it with those guys. They love him. The interaction's really good. I've heard that recruits really think highly of him as well. So we'll see that situation going forward if Venables considers moving him into a permanent job or that they look out elsewhere. The timing aspect of it is the most interesting thing to me because you've started fall camp. And so if you're looking outside the building for someone for that permanent role, it's a little bit more difficult right now to maybe fill someone. So you think, is it going to be a situation where they have an interim all year and hire someone at the end of the season? That hasn't always worked out the best for programs that have done that. I think it might be more of a quick decision here, but we'll see. In terms of stability, I think I was impressed with the mood and how everyone was interacting at practice. It's almost crazy to say this, but it seemed like nothing had happened yesterday based on the mood and how the guys were getting after it. I didn't get a ton of time, but there were they were short with this with the previous regime when Lincoln would allow us to come out to practice. So I feel like we were able to see a little bit more than we used to. But, man, they were physical. They were getting into skirmishes yesterday, and so I was impressed with the mood. It looked like a college football practice, let's put it to you guys that way.
Yeah, well, great stuff, great insight from Joey Helmer, OU 24/7, LaDamian Washington, former SEC receiver at Missouri, now taking over that wide receiver room for Oklahoma. Thanks for the insight, and let everybody know how to connect with you.
Sure. Yeah, you can read all our stuff at OUinsider.com, and then my Twitter handle is at JoeyHelmer247.
All right, thanks, Joey.
Thank you.
All right, good stuff there. Let's get that first break in, or the final break of the first hour.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a wreck at Madison Boulevard in Wall, Triana. That one reported with injuries. Madison PD just canceled Himsey, though, so apparently nobody's hurt. Everything else looks good this morning. Be careful in those school zones, though. Someone dies from heart disease every 36 seconds. Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace can help keep your heart healthy. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold-certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Are you tired of chasing a roofing contractor to show up on time or even show up at all? I'm Sam Fleming with Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Our motto at Fleming Roofing is we show up. Our goal at Fleming Roofing is to provide the reliable customer service that you deserve, and we have the resources to meet all of your roofing needs: residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. We are manufacturer certified for roof coatings, single-ply membranes, and asphalt shingles. Whenever you need a roofing professional you can count on, call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We are committed to finding the solution that meets your needs. We don't have quotas or heavy-handed sales tactics. Fleming Roofing, we have expert experience. We show up. Free estimates, residential, commercial, industrial, replacement, or repairs. Check us out at FlemingHSV.com. FlemingHSV.com. When you need a quick response, it's Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
All across the nation, we are here for our communities.
We're doing our part to get supplies where it's needed in order to fight COVID-19 together.
Got to do what we got to do, helping the people that did lose their jobs and lost their income, and now they don't have money for their food.
It feels good to be out there to assist our community with what we're dealing with. It's what you sign up for as a soldier.
We will not rest until the mission is complete.
Each one of these soldiers, once they received the call, they understood that all hands were on deck. This goes to the core of what citizen soldiers do.
We are your Army National Guard.
I would like our friends and family to know that your National Guardsmen are always ready and always there.
Always ready, always there. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more. Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
The world champs are back. The Braves are out to defend their world championship. And behind Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna, Dansby Swanson, Max Fried, and this loaded 2022 roster, a repeat is within reach.
There goes Ozzie, 2-2 on the way, hit well. Deep center field. Might have ourselves a tie ball game. You betcha.
And we'll bring you every huge moment of the Braves 2022 season right here on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
Back to school shopping on a budget? Then Kohl's is the place to go. With the extra 20% off, I got my kids activewear for under $9 and jeans for $14.39. Plus, I found 2 for $20 character tees and got $10 off as a Kohl's Rewards member. More style and more savings? Check and check. Select styles, 20% offer ends August 14th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
If you're ready to lower your utility bills, it's time to call Eagle Insulation. Eagle can handle it all. Attic re-insulation, insulation removal, wall insulation, and new construction insulation, commercial and residential. Our primary goal is to save you money, and lots of it. Typical clients realize their return on investment within 3 to 6 months. That means the re-insulation actually pays for itself and then some. See if we can help you. Contact Eagle Insulation today, 256-755-1556, or log on insulatewitheagle.com.
This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com.
Talk 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Getting ready to wrap up our #1 here on the show. 256-576-4977. That's the number 2, the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. You too can join the fun. We've talked about the coaches poll coming out. The coaches poll that has Alabama ranked #1 to start the year. Just how many and how much expectations do you really put on preseason polls? Here's Will Anderson's thought on those.
The USA Today coaches poll came out today, Alabama #1. Is that something that the team views as a big sign of respect, or is it something that you just kind of categorize as rat poison?
Well, I didn't even know nothing about that till you just told me, so I'm pretty sure the team doesn't know, so we don't even probably know anything about that, so it is rat poison.
There you go, Will Anderson giving us the rat poison quote about the coaches poll coming out yesterday. It's pretty much about what it is. It's based off of, I don't know.
Nothing. It's based off of last year. It's based on what you got back. It means 0. I mean, they have to do that to create conversation in the offseason sometimes. I wish they would just rank teams after the first month. You could still, make your predictions on conference races and who you think is going to be good, but let's just wait and see if a team's going to be very, any good in the first month. Like Dirt Neck University, who will probably have a couple losses, who basically was already out of the Western Division race before they lucked up and beat Alabama. But, to somewhat preserve mediocrity.
Under that Texas A&M has 1 or 2 losses after the first month and a half of the season.
I'd say definitely over.
Month and a half.
I'd say 2 or more. Wouldn't be surprised. I'd probably say 2 is probably the right number, and they'll be out of it again and worried about NIL and everything else, thinking that if they buy more players, then maybe their coach won't be a moron, but that won't change. He'll just talk fast and talk out of both sides of his mouth. He's good at it.
I was just trying to think. So a month and a half would put Texas A&M, that would put them probably about, what, let me say October 8th? Because, you start on the 3rd. So they would have big games with Miami, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Alabama.
And remember, Mississippi State beat them last year in the land of Dirt Neck. So they've already lost once to Mike Leach. So we'll see. I mean, they're going to have a talented squad, no doubt about it. I don't agree with the guys, though I respect, Brandon Marcello's work. Certainly, he's been a guest on this show. But I don't agree with him. He's got A&M being a playoff team and being 4th in the country. I don't know why. I guess because of the recruiting class that he brought in. But, I mean, again, if you're having to count on tons of freshmen to play, it's because you haven't developed the rest of your football team. So I don't buy it.
If they come out, though, and look good against Miami, and then they play better against Mississippi State, they get tripped up against Arkansas. Even Olin Buchanan has already said, they if they don't beat that Arkansas game or the Alabama game, it's all right. They kind of expect that going to Tuscaloosa.
Well, remember, Olin did say in Atlanta that if they don't win 10, it's disappointing.
Right, but after that, they do have winnable ball games. South Carolina is a winnable ball game for Texas A&M. Ole Miss is a winnable ball game.
They didn't win it.
Auburn should. They dominated that one last year. That is a winnable ball game, possibly in Auburn.
Already gave my take on it.
And then you have UMass and LSU.
Yeah, they got. They should beat UMass. Good for them.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They didn't beat LSU last year, and LSU actually has a coach with a pulse. So.
All right, we're just about done with hour number 1 here on Talking Ball. When we come back and do get underway in hour 2, we're going to talk Texas because we do got to talk. Alabama will pay a visit to Austin, Texas this year. And believe it or not, that game is 24/7 Sports has said, okay, that's the 4th best ranked game of the season as far as matchups go. The number 1 matchup that they rank is the top 25 matchups that you need to see. They put Ohio State, Michigan as number 1. They put the Alabama-Texas game as number 2.
Are you sure, or is that going to be Ohio State and Notre Dame? Because I would have thought that would have been out-of-conference game.
No, we're going to rank that. So 24/7 Sports said the most anticipated games of the 2022 season ranked. The number 1 is Michigan-Ohio State.
Because Ohio State finally lost to them last year.
Yeah, finally.
Because Ryan Day, Lincoln Riley's illegitimate brother, choked and got his butt handed to him.
So number 4 on that list is Alabama at Texas. We talked about Steve Sarkisian, the expectations around them, the expectations. They got 1 first-place vote in the coaches' poll. We will drive to Austin, Texas, and we will preview with C.J. Vogel, Longhorns.
McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Got a wreck at Madison Boulevard in Wall, Triana. That one reported with injuries. Madison PD just canceled Himsey, though, so apparently nobody's hurt. Everything else looks good this morning. Be careful in those school zones, though. Someone dies from heart disease every 36 seconds. Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace can help keep your heart healthy. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeye Skywatch Traffic Center.
From the Fox 54 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. A mostly cloudy to overcast sky this Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures climbing into the upper 80s and lower 90s. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are going to be possible across the Tennessee Valley through a good chunk of the afternoon and then early into the evening. We're actually going to maintain the opportunity for a little bit of rain as we head into the overnight, early into your Wednesday morning. Bear that in mind for your Wednesday morning commute. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station. Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com. Welcome to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
All right, welcome back. Hour 2 of Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Hanging out with you for another hour, are we, on a Tuesday morning. Safe travels into work, into school, wherever you may be cruising on this Tuesday. Recap a little bit of hour number 1. We've talked about the Big Ten new media rights. We talked about the coaches poll that just came out. A coaches poll that's all Alabama number 1, followed by Ohio State, then Georgia at number 3. The one surprise was that Texas did get one first-place vote. That would make Texas fans happy if that was the scenario at the end of the season, but Steve Sarkisian has created a lot of buzz to, I guess, warrant that one first-place vote with everything that he has done, everything that he has added. He does have probably, Drew, I'm going to say probably one of the best running backs in the country in Bijan Robinson to go along with hopefully
Xavier Worthy,
a quarterback to get it, plus a few Alabama transfers along the way.
Yeah, they've got 3. They've got Keelan Robinson, running back, tight end Jaleel Billingsley. I'll give him a little more respect in this segment. And then of course wide receiver Ajay Hall. As we said, Sark is an outstanding offensive mind. Did a great job for Coach Saban, and Xavier Worthy is going into his sophomore year. Was a freshman All-American a year ago. Bijan Robinson, some believe, could be the best running back in the country. He's going to be used a lot like probably Najee Harris was in 2020 when he won the Doak Walker Award. Bijan had a great year last year. But we're going to talk some Texas with our next guest, part of the Football Brainiacs, and these guys know their stuff. Kareem, very good friend of mine, is the kind of the lead dog with these guys, but one of his dudes is CJ Vogel, and he covers the University of Texas for the Football Brainiacs, and we're going to talk some Longhorns football with him right now on Talking Ball here in Huntsville, Alabama. CJ, welcome back to the show. You were Drew and Scott. Good morning.
Thank you, guys. How's it going? I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
Doing good.
Thank you, Brent, my friend. We appreciate the time. Real quick, we kind of talked a little bit of Texas this morning. 5-7, disappointing first year for Sark. Already some pressure to improve. I've said this team can flip it around. I think they can go 8-4. Now, I don't understand who voted them number 1, CJ, but again, how much better can this squad get in your mind in year 2 under Sarkisian?
Well, I don't think it can get much worse. I'll put it that way. Obviously 5-7 and a loss to Kansas isn't very inspiring for anybody. But the offensive line is the biggest problem from last year. I think that was really what you saw in every single game Texas lost last year was the inability to block in the running game and then the inability to protect the passer. Hard to win football games when your offensive line isn't protecting up front. So Sarkisian and Kyle Flood added 7 offensive linemen from the 2022 class, and by all accounts, it sounds like there are going to be several contributors from that class on this year's team. And so when you add an influx of talent like that, the next question becomes, how consistent can they be at such an early age on the field? And so I think, again, you're going to be in a position where your team is going to only be as good as the offensive line, and right now, while Texas is adding some talent, it's going to be a lot of inexperience and a lot of up and downs with young freshmen. So I do think this Texas team is going to be improved. The number 1 vote that y'all talked about earlier is more seen as a troll more so than anything in the Longhorn Twitter sphere. I'm not sure really where that came from, but I'll tell you what, Texas fans are just as annoyed as everybody else across the country when it comes to this part of the year. You look at all these polls and rankings and see the Longhorns ranked in that 15 to 20 slot to start the year when you know darn well that's not where they should be. So that was a fun Twitter interaction, I'm sure, when that first place vote came out yesterday.
With that offensive line kind of being in flux right now and improving, Steve Sarkisian does have a decision to make on who will be that starting quarterback. How important is it then to get that right, knowing that they may have to do a little improvising there at that quarterback spot because the offensive line may or may not hold up from time to time?
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial. And, especially not even in regards to the offensive line, but when you look back at last year, Sarkisian kind of flip-flopped with his quarterback decision. Obviously, Texas went into Fayetteville last year and got whooped. The week after, quarterback switch came. It was a highly anticipated quarterback battle last year, very similar to the one that we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you come out and you lose that badly on the road to Arkansas and you make the change, it inspires no confidence that, one, you made the right decision to your team, and two, your decision-making is in the right space to all the fans and the donors. And so that's why this year you can't make the wrong decision if you're Sark. You can't go back and, you lose by 30 to Alabama week 2, and all of a sudden you have a new signal caller week 3. That inspires no faith in the Texas fan base. And so it's very important, right away for the guy who wins that job coming out of fall camp to be the guy and put up some good numbers, because otherwise, there's going to be a whole lot more questions than answers headed Stark's direction.
Well, Hudson Card started that Arkansas game. Then Casey Thompson played the majority of the season. Now Card competing with Quinn Ewers, the high-profile transfer from South Lake Carroll that came over from Ohio State and was thought to be the favorite. Is it alarming that he hasn't outright won the job, or is Hudson Card improved? What is your take on it?
It's funny because that's a question that arises very often. Obviously, with the hype and the status that came with Quinn Ewers' transfer, you expect him to come in and be, the guy no matter where he is. And, for him to kind of carry that back of the depth chart, kind of mantra with him from Ohio State, now transferring over here and being in the midst of a real quarterback battle with someone who only has 4 starts, you kind of sit back and wonder, maybe this isn't what you expected from him. From all we know, it does sound like Quinn Ewers is going to be the guy when it comes down to it. I do think, the competition is really driving both of them to learn the playbook in and out, communicate and become a leader on the practice field, which, it's unparalleled how important a position is, the mouthpiece of your team. But with Ewers, the main thing is, this should be his freshman season. This should be his true freshman season. He's only 18 years old. He's stepping into a program where, yes, he was committed for a while. He did know a good bit of players on the team, but for all accounts and purposes, it's a brand new team and a brand new system at 18 years old. For him to step in and take the world over by storm, no matter how talented he is, that shouldn't be the expectation. I will say it does sound like things, at least in the last couple of weeks, have really started trending in his direction. So a lot more positive signs heading that way, and I do think at week 1 he will be the guy taking the snaps under center.
Obviously, Bijan Robinson, the choice back there for Texas, the proven back. But Steve Sarkisian also praising a freshman along the way.
Definitely. That's one of the big strengths of this Texas team is the running back room. You look at Bijan Robinson and the hype that he's getting not only in the Doak Walker but in the Heisman race as well. It's certainly a pleasant sight for Texas fans. And then Keelan Robinson, the speedster. Roshan Johnson is another guy on that team who, the converted quarterback. I think, in all honesty, Roshan Johnson, when you watch him run, through the tackles, he's probably the most difficult of the running backs to bring down, which is crazy to say with a guy like Bijan Robinson on the roster, but it just goes to say how deep Texas is at the running back position. Of course, it doesn't matter if they can't block up front, but that the freshman Jaden Blue is a very talented running back. He didn't play a senior season of high school, so he is very fresh. He is adapting. He was an early enrollee, so things are moving a little faster than you would expect, 5 days into training camp. So that's definitely the strength of this Texas team.
And we're talking to C.J. Vogel, Football Brainiacs, talking some Texas Longhorns as they prepare to open their season, the second one under Steve Sarkisian. A lot of pomp and circumstance going into this Week 2 matchup with Alabama and Austin, 11 a.m. kickoff. So many connections now between these two programs, Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, Jeff Banks. They've also brought in transfers from Alabama. CJ, you talked about Keelan Robinson being one of them, a guy that can kick off return, very fast young man. But they also brought in two high-profile guys, Ajay Hall and Jaleel Billingsley. Heard some unflattering things about them last week, but your take on it. I know they're going to be excited to play against their former squad. Are they expected to make big impacts this year for Texas?
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you can add, special talents like the two of them, I think it's a no-brainer, especially at a school like Texas where it kind of felt like, talent was evading the school for a while. So, Billingsley specifically on at the tight end position, he's going to be behind Jatavian Sanders, who was a 5-star out of Denton Ryan, a very highly coveted guy who is expected to take the jump into that starting spot this year. What's going to be interesting is how he's used as a flex, kind of the big, tall slot tight end receiver hybrid for Billingsley. Y'all saw it firsthand. Sarkisian is very good when it comes to getting his playmakers in space, and Billingsley is a guy who at 6'4" and 218, 219 is a nightmare matchup for linebackers. So that'll be interesting. I'm excited to see him and what he brings to the table. And then Ajay Hall is the guy who is currently running with the second squad right now. Again, he looks like everything that is advertised in practice. He's long, wiry, can move very well. The routes are crisp. It's one of those things where, you're upset that it didn't work at the previous school, but you look at him now wearing your team's colors, and you're like, all right, let's see how this goes, So, as far as all the off-the-field stuff, I've heard nothing but good stuff on my end.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there were some reports last week, and in the spring when they ended up in the portal of why that was the case. But so far, so good on my end. It really the only thing holding either of them back right now is a little hamstring tightness for Jaleel Billingsley.
And then, CJ, going into this matchup with Alabama, it's going to be one that's going to be highly anticipated. As soon as they signed this deal, it was, and that was really before Steve Sarkisian became the head coach. Then he becomes the head coach, brings a lot of staff members with him. Bo Davis, also the defensive line coach, a longtime Saban guy, trying to change the culture of this program. Certainly, as you when you started the conversation with us to top off the second hour, you said offensively the O-line was a big point of contention that they had to improve there, but also defensively they struggled some last year. But I know you wrote a piece recently that says those numbers, if you take a closer look, maybe they were a little bit better than anticipated. How do you see this defense improving and then matching up against an Alabama offense that's also got a lot of new pieces in place, but of course, Bryce Young coming back, the Heisman Trophy winner?
Yeah, anytime you look at Week 2 and you're seeing one of the most powerful college football offenses led by the Heisman Trophy winner, it doesn't inspire a whole lot of faith to begin with. One thing with this Texas defense is it's pretty old, especially in the front seven. I believe they're returning 8 starters from last year. 10 or 11 guys even started multiple games. So there's a lot of experience. Whether that experience equates to the talent necessary to win a lot of football games is yet to be seen. Obviously, we didn't see that at all last year. But the biggest question mark is going to be in the secondary. They added Ryan Watts out of Ohio State, who transferred in February, and they moved Anthony Cook back to the safety position. So a lot of inexperience and new positions there. It's going to be, an interesting battle. You look at a Heisman-winning quarterback against a fresh secondary, and you combine a fresh secondary with a pass rush that really didn't generate any, pressures last year. And you're thinking, oh boy, how high can that scoreboard go for Alabama? And so that's something that's certainly got to change. But again, experience is something in college football that is invaluable in my opinion. And when you kind of compare what they went through last year, I can only imagine how hungry the Texas defense is going to be this year. The one note that you mentioned earlier with some of the numbers not necessarily being as bad as they appeared is Texas led at halftime of 6 of their 9 conference games, in which they only won 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's somewhat encouraging that, hey, if the offense can sustain a drive or 2 more in the second half and maybe take off 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of clock, games are going to be significantly different. And that's something that, you know, Texas, and especially Steve Sarkisian, is looking back saying, you know, I need to do better in that regard as well. That's something that we've heard a number of times in press conferences and media availability. So the defense, yes, was not very good last year, but there is reason to think maybe not week 2, but things are going to turn around this year.
What are the expectations? I know the Texas fans want to win. They want to win quickly. They certainly weren't satisfied, as you told us, with 5-7 and losing to Kansas last year, and not going to a bowl game. But what realistically in your mind, with recruiting is going well, we're about to talk about that to wrap up our conversation. But what are the expectations in year 2 for this fan base and this coaching staff in the Big 12?
Oh man, well that expectation probably differs on who you ask. You know, you're going to hear this is the year where the Big 12 is down from a quarterback's perspective. It's time to compete for a Big 12 championship. It's a down year in the conference, which has been a common theme over the last couple of years. But I think realistically, Texas fans should be very happy with 8 or 9 wins. I think with a very inexperienced quarterback, a very inexperienced offensive line, it's hard to ask a whole lot of a team with those 2 components, and expect to win right away. I do think you need to be competitive against Oklahoma, against Baylor, against Oklahoma State. You must be competitive against all 3 of those teams. And if I think the line right now for Alabama is about 15.5. If Texas covers in any way, I think that's it's a win. It's a moral victory, and I hate saying those 2 words put together, but I don't think anybody in burnt orange and white is expecting a victory September 10th. I think that's too far out of the realm of expectations. But 8 or 9 wins is a good year for Stark. That puts you in the right direction with a second-year quarterback, a second-year offensive line moving forward. That'll really put you in contention right away for 2023 to really make some noise across the college football landscape.
And Steve Sarkisian continues, though, to fill in those missing pieces on the recruiting trail.
Mm-hmm.
He sure does, and I think the big one, that made national news was the Arch Manning commitment. It kind of says a lot about the recruiting ability, not only about Sarkisian, but about the remainder of the Alabama guys that came over with Banks, Flood, and Davis. The 7 offensive linemen for the 22 class is kind of revered in the Texas circles as the best offensive line haul in that cycle. And you have 5 stars, Calvin Banks, DJ Campbell, 2 guys which is crazy. And when I bring up this next point, but Texas hadn't had a 5-star offensive lineman committed since 2006.
Wow.
Jeez.
And so you bring in this new staff, and they bring 2 in the first cycle that they're wearing the Texas logo on their shirts, and you're thinking, all right, how high can this program go now? It's certainly something that you probably wouldn't have expected at a school like Texas in a state with such deep recruiting ties, but that just happened to be the case. And so yeah, the recruiting is going well. I think that was a given, when you kind of take the pedigree of history with these coaches and move them over to a school like Texas. It's only a matter of time before that recruiting turns into wins, which is something, again, that we haven't seen in quite some time here.
Well, great stuff. CJ Vogel talking Texas and the Longhorns right now going into year 2 under Steve Sarkisian. We appreciate the time, brother. Let everybody know how to follow your work and continued success with the Football Brainiacs.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much. You can find me on Twitter at CJVogel_TFB or at thefootballbrainiacs.com.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
All right, we got to get a break in. When we come back, a collective that will make Eric Dickerson happy. We'll explain when we return.
Did he get another Trans Am or whatever the hell it was?
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Got a wreck at Madison Boulevard in Wall, Triana. That one reported with injuries. Madison PD just canceled Himsey, though, so apparently nobody's hurt. Everything else looks good this morning. Be careful in those school zones, though. Someone dies from heart disease every 36 seconds. Dr. Randall Burns and the team at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace can help keep your heart healthy. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
Ann Adams with Berkshire Hathaway Rise Real Estate is the one name to know if you're buying or selling real estate. With years of local experience, Ann Adams offers buyers in-depth knowledge of the local housing market and will narrow available properties down to those you'll be interested in so you can save time when shopping for your new home. If you're ready to sell, Ann offers a seamless process using accurate pricing and expert negotiation skills to make sure you get a fair price for your home. Call Ann Adams today at 256-337-2625 or log on bhhsriserealestate.com.
Hey Dad, cool if I change this?
They may not get each other's music, but they can both get a COVID-19 booster shot. Because the CDC recommends booster shots for people 12 years and older after completion of a primary series. Schedule an appointment as soon as you are eligible. Sponsored by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Back to school shopping on a budget? Then Kohl's is the place to go. With the extra 20% off, I got my kids activewear for under $9 and jeans for $14.39. Plus, I found 2 for $20 character tees and got $10 off as a Kohl's Rewards member. More style and more savings? Check and check. Select styles, 20% offer ends August 14th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohls.com for details.
AVIQ. Who is AVIQ? AVIQ is audiovisual the intelligent way, where we put our IQ to work for your AV needs. With more than 100 years combined experience in audio, video, and automation, our team of experts is dedicated to one thing, helping you discover technological solutions that make your home special. Once you experience a game or a movie on one of our state-of-the-art home theater systems, you may never leave the house again. AVIQ can build the entire system for you or provide the quality components if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But AVIQ is more than just home theater and state-of-the-art sound systems. We offer a variety of control options for home technology. Energy efficiency, heightened security, and improved quality of life are all attainable through the automation of home systems. Intuitive and user-friendly control is our main priority in designing a system that meets your needs. Don't just take our word for it. You need to see it to believe it. Come visit us at our state-of-the-art showroom on University, just east of Jim and Nick's, across from AT&T, or visit aviqhsv.com.
Do you know that your car or truck or SUV may be worth up to 30 or 40% more than it was last year? It's true. Bobby White back again for Woody Anderson Ford, and now is the perfect time to trade in and trade up to a gold certified or blue certified pre-owned car, truck, SUV, or crossover. While our new vehicle inventory continues to build back, our Ford Blue Advantage certified pre-owned vehicles are nearing 100 models to choose from, and a good variety too. Woody Anderson Ford Gold certified vehicles are 6 years or younger with less than 80,000 miles and have passed a 172-point inspection by factory certified technicians. They have a 14-day, 1,000-mile money-back guarantee, a great comprehensive limited warranty, 24-hour roadside assistance, and go home with full tank of gas and a fresh oil change. Get nearly a new ride and none of the worries. Woody Anderson Ford, Jordan Spartman, hope to see you soon.
When I chose a garage door company, I did my homework. I needed Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. They have a 5-star Google rating. I checked their reviews and liked what their customers had to say. Precision Overhead Garage Door has lifetime warranty packages. Same-day service if I call before 2 p.m. If they can't make it the same day, my service call fee the next day is waived. They did a 25-point safety inspection on the door and operator. Now that's peace of mind. Residential, commercial, and gate services. Precision Overhead Garage Door Service. Call 256-400-4500.
This is Eli Gold, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now more of Talkin' Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond on your home for Crimson Tide Sports 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Roll Tide.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN, the Zone, 256-576-4977. That's the number to the phone lines. They are open for you, wide open for you. Get on in. You can be a part of the show if you would like at this time. And going to break, I mentioned that there's a new collective out in college football that would make Eric Dickerson happy.
I was trying to think of it. Was it a gold Trans Am that Texas ATM gave him and he still went to SMU pre-NIL?
I'll have to look on that
Something.
one. It was a Trans Am, though.
It was gold, I think.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this time, keep in mind it is legal. But SMU, yes, that SMU announced a collective yesterday called the Boulevard Collective.
Yeah.
They will pay every SMU football and basketball player $36,000 a year for a total of $3.5 million. The collective website did not list a number publicly, but that is what On3 is coming up. The money on top of the $1 million already provided by fellow collective Pony Sports makes SMU among the most ambitious collective groups in the country. So there you go.
I've said it before, man.
Each SMU player now is getting $36,000.
If you're a college kid and you can't live off $36,000, then you got a problem. Okay? I mean, I'm just saying. And you're on a full scholarship and you're not. Now, understand something. And this is, I think Wes Neighbors has talked about this on the drive. He's in wealth management. Neighbors Wealth Management, they are sponsoring this hotline and this radio station. Taxes. Just understand you got to pay taxes. It's not like a Pell Grant that it's not free. But, again, you're going to have to pay taxes. But I'll say it. If your university is taking care of you like that and you're getting sounds like this is similar to the high tide traditions thing Alabama's trying to do, and you're paying every student athlete, then you ought to be good, okay? I just don't agree with all this bull crap of paying somebody $9.5 million who may suck without even playing it down. Because I'm just telling you, Lenny Cook is around the corner, people. Lenny Cook is around the corner, if all of you people followed basketball. He was supposed to be second to LeBron James, and the dude was a bust. There's going to be somebody flop that's making these millions, and then one of these quote-unquote collective donors is going to have a stroke, okay? Because the kid's not playing, and he's not worth 10 cents. And that's why, to me, you shouldn't get paid up front. Because some of these dudes, just like rookies in the NFL, flop, but, of course, they're professional athletes then. But that's why they ended up putting kind of a rookie salary cap in. And what you just talked about, $36,000, that to me, it sounds crazy now. Now, that sounds reasonable. Not $9.5 million for Nico Iamaleava, allegedly, getting that. I mean, that's ridiculous.
And then $36,000. I mean, that's for every player, good or bad.
And for Dirtneck having to pay his number one receiver $800,000 before he ever enrolls at Texas A&M, because otherwise he wouldn't want to go to the toilet.
So, breaking. We do have a little bit of breaking news right now, and it's coming out. We'll get back to this collective here. This talk, because I pulled up some of the Eric Dickerson stuff.
Right.
But Serena Williams announcing that she will retire.
Great career.
From the tennis world.
Yeah.
And it'll come after the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I mean, she's had a long career.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt about it. She and her sister Venus were groundbreaking talents. Serena, I believe she's in her 40s now, Scott, which in tennis years is ancient. A lot of times in tennis, you see them retire in their early to mid-30s. Like, Roger Federer's still rolling, but you just don't see this happen. And where they can compete at the highest level when you get to that advanced stage. So Serena Williams, I know she's been trying to win that one more major.
Yeah, she has 23 majors now. Margaret Court has 24.
She's trying to tie her.
Yeah, and the U.S. Open will be her last attempt in that. And you mentioned Serena Williams. She is 40. She was
Yes.
born in 1981, so she is 40.
She's played
right
a long
now. Yeah.
time at a high level, but it's just very, very difficult. And she's had a lot of physical issues, Scott, the last 3 or 4 years, where at one point in time when she was in her mid-30s, she was still dominating the tour,
Yeah.
but it's just
Yep.
not as much anymore.
All right, so that's the breaking news. Serena Williams set to retire from the world of tennis, and man, oh man, what she did to change the game of tennis.
Already made a movie on 'em.
unreal. Yeah, I did watch that on HBO Max. I did watch it, and it was very interesting because
And their
according to
father,
the movie, which according to the movie, there were some lines in there that Venus was the first one to get on the scene, but the dad Richard always felt that Serena
was the more talented
one and was going to be the one to shine and have her time and everything.
But both were
Venus
great
needed to
champions,
pave the
though.
way for Serena to get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to the collective, I looked though, and it's kind of funny that Texas A&M, according to Eric Dickerson, remember, Texas A&M offered him a suitcase filled with $50,000 in it.
In addition to this,
in addition to
Trans
the
Am.
car. Yeah, he kept the car.
Yeah, he kept the car and took it to SMU.
Yeah, but he did not keep the cash.
Yeah.
And it was $50,000.
So he didn't keep the cash?
Did not keep the cash.
Wow.
But kept the car.
Mhm.
And all this, remember, SMU got the death penalty in 1987.
Yes, they did.
Shut down the program, did the NCAA for
Pony
multiple
Excess,
years.
remember?
Yeah.
Instead of Express.
Anyway, I thought that collective was kind of interesting. It's kind of ironic.
How much did Eric Dickerson give to said collective?
It's kind of ironic, though, don't you think, that SMU is getting a collective now to pay its players.
Yeah.
And this is the only program, I believe, still to this date.
That's ever been given the death penalty.
Yeah, and I don't think, and the NCAA has said that they do not want to do that again. That's not something that they want. Now, they have gone on record and said there were a couple programs over time
like
for
UNLV.
other reasons that came close to the death penalty, and I think
basketball.
Is Penn State one of the last
ones?
ones?
Well, yeah, because of
Jerry Sandusky. Did they not admit though? I think the NCAA admitted
that
they
was
came
stupid.
close.
But see, the NCAA blew that in the case of this. Penn State didn't deserve nearly a death penalty in football for what Sandusky did off the field. It wasn't a football deal.
Right.
As far as NCAA rules or whatever, he should have been in prison. Okay, that's not what you're penalizing players when it had nothing to do with them. Okay, it had everything to do with Sandusky being a scumbag. They should have never been penalized like that. That was just the NCAA being stupid. It wasn't a football on the field matter. Okay, it was conduct off the field that should have got the guy locked up a long time ago, but Joe looked the other way. Okay. And I had a lot of respect for Joe Paterno during his career, but it's pretty obvious that he looked the other way and they didn't do their due diligence.
Okay, yeah, it's been implemented only 5 times.
Yeah.
I did not know this. It's the University of Kentucky basketball program.
Don't tell that to
for
Jeff.
The 52-53 season.
That means Coach Rupp.
Yeah. The basketball program at Southwestern Louisiana, now Louisiana Lafayette, for the 73-74 and 74-75 seasons, the SMU football program for the 87 season, and then on the Division II and Division III, there's some Division II men's soccer and Division III men's tennis, Morehouse College and McMurray College. Morehouse from the 2004-2005 seasons. That's the last time. Those are the death penalty cases that the NCAA has handed out. Most famous, though, is the SMU football one. That one has gone on. Serious infractions, Kansas basketball in 88.
Yeah.
Kentucky basketball in 89.
Chris Mills.
And Alabama football in 2002 and Penn State in 2012.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they're listing as the most serious allegation Division I programs since the SMU death penalty.
Yeah, there's been some serious ones. LSU's been under investigation. I don't know how the hell, when you pay more than the G League before NIL, yet your basketball program's not getting nuked. And I'm talking about with Will Wade and Western Union. That one still blows my mind. And I guess, it's not totally wrapped up. They're still waiting to see what happens to that program. But, again, it took LSU an extra 3 years before they finally got rid of Will Wade and looked the other way and let him just keep coaching. Well, because they wanted to fire him for cause and not have to pay him a red cent. And he'd been winning because they had been irrelevant.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, but again, Will Wade, come on, man. I'm not saying give a death penalty to LSU basketball. That's not what I'm saying. But if a team is going to get slammed again, you would think it would be LSU. But it's an interesting time because NIL has now gone into existence.
Yeah, that's what's weird. How's the NCAA going to handle this if these programs or these collectives are not legal, which they're saying they're not legal, to entice guys to recruit? How are you going to? I mean, it's an interesting time. All right, let's cruise around camp, SEC camps a little bit. Sam Pittman gives us an update on the Arkansas Razorbacks.
I thought, y'all ready? I thought today was a good practice. It was obviously hot. Had more cramping issues than what I was hoping we would, but it was hot. I thought the kids fought through practice well, and to start off, I thought we threw and caught the ball really well today for the first day, and not a lot of errors, not a lot of balls on the ground. Snaps from center to quarterback seemed to be good. The MAs were limited with the veterans. Obviously, you're going to get some of that with the younger guys, but all in all, I thought they fought through the weather well. I had a great attitude all day, and I was happy with the first practice.
A little bit of Sam Pittman from Arkansas.
Yep, high expectations for Arkansas going into year 3. Sam Pittman's done a remarkable job resuscitating that program, which was coming off of the Chad Morris years, which were probably the worst in Arkansas football history. At least it was the worst football I'd ever seen at Arkansas because it was Vanderbilt level. Yep, that's how bad it was. So, they're a lot better now. Recruiting has picked up. They're much more physical along the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They added Drew Sanders, another Alabama transfer. But, again, guys are going to move on in the portal if they're not, playing as much as they'd like to. It's just inevitable. It doesn't matter what program you come from. You're going to have some guys depart. Alabama's no different. And so Drew's going to play inside for them, and I think he has a chance to be one of the top 5 to 10 impact players in the SEC. And I think Arkansas, if they stay healthy and, and with their continuity with Kendall Briles at OC, Barry Odom at DC, I think they can, certainly be among maybe the top 4 or 5 teams in the SEC overall. And when you think about that, that's a stunning turnaround from Vanderbilt from 2 years ago, which is basically what they were. And so, KJ Jefferson's a captain of that team, veteran, played a lot of football, and certainly I'll be the biggest Arkansas fan in the world when they take on Dirt Neck University in Jerry World.
256-576-4977. That was Sam Pittman. How about Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels? Let's cruise over to Oxford.
All right, so I haven't had you guys for a few days. Guys are working hard out there. It was good that it was hotter today than it had been to push them, get them uncomfortable. So a lot of new guys, as you guys know, so a lot of work to do with them. Same story, on and off the field. I think our coaches have done a good job so far. There's a lot of meshing together there as well, with half the staff being new and a new strength coach. So it's great to have a training camp. Sometimes you got so many returning pieces, it's not as important, and you're more managing just to stay healthy. This would not be the case.
A little bit of Lane Kiffin there, giving us a little update on the Rebels. And again, he's kind of emphasizing the new guys. New guys for Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, no question about it. There's a lot of new pieces there, and they've They've got Zach Evans in their backfield, no doubt about it. He's a guy that's got a chance to make an impact at the running back spot. We'll see where the quarterback battle goes. Luke Altmeyer, Jackson Dart. Seems as though most insiders believe Luke Altmeyer, and we talked to David Johnson last week, Rebels 247, that he had the edge out of 14 of the 15 spring practices. They've got to replace Sam Williams, Cedric Johnson, who we heard from, from the state of Alabama. Had 6.5 sacks last year. He was one of their guys they brought to Atlanta for SEC Media Days. He's going to have to provide a pass rush for them. They've got some new pieces in at linebacker, but they've got some veterans back in the secondary. One of them being Ladarius Tennyson, who transferred from Auburn. So they've got new pieces. David thinks that their ceiling is 10-2 and finishing second in the West. I disagree with that. I think they're more of an 8-4, 7-5, finishing sixth in the West is what I had them doing, but we will see. I mean, I think, again, when you talk Alabama, I think they're the definitive favorite in the SEC and the SEC West. And then when you start going 2 through 7, the West is going to cannibalize itself. I think there's a lot of really good teams. I don't think there's a bad football team in the SEC West, and I say that because I picked Mississippi State last, and yet as our good friend Matt Wyatt, the radio analyst from the Matt Wyatt Show, 105.9 in Jackson, told us they've got the most experience returning in the SEC. So they've got a lot of veterans coming back. Mike Leach has got, Will Rogers coming back at quarterback. He's been very, very productive there. He's going into year 3 where he's got more of his kind of guys, because if there's one thing that's true and beyond a shadow of a doubt, Mike Leach beats to his own drum.
That is true.
And he wants his own dudes. And so there was, a lot of, transition going into that COVID year, which was difficult. And they made some progress last year, going 7-6. And then going into year 3, they've got some veterans. So who knows? I mean, they upset Texas A&M last year on the road. He hasn't won the Egg Bowl, so there's people putting pressure on him.
Right.
But I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think Matt Hayes or some moron put out that he was on the hot seat and he might be in trouble already. But to me, I don't think so. I think the expectations are reasonable at Mississippi State. And Dan Mullen realized that quickly when he left Starkville after 10 years, went to Gainesville, put on a stupid Darth Vader mask and fell on his face and got fired. And now he's an analyst, and he'll probably never shut up.
What if Mike Leach has a better 2022 season than Lane Kiffin?
Well, I mean, it's possible. I mean, because Ole Miss is the most polarizing team in the league of all the portal additions.
Right.
So we don't know how that's going to work out. And
if it doesn't work out,
I don't trust Lane Kiffin. Okay, he's more worried about how many followers Juice has sometimes than he is going to practice. Okay,
you're paying attention to Juice now too, aren't you?
I mean, hell, how can you not? Everybody, that's all they talk about. I mean, and that's the problem, and that's why I'm not a Lane Kiffin guy as a head coach, because I just think he's got attention deficit disorder.
We're paying attention to his dog more than we are him. I'm just thinking though. I mean, what if Mike Leach? Because Matt Wyatt kind of shed some light that this Mississippi State team is returning some veteran guys, especially in the trenches.
They are.
So what if Mississippi State surprises people outside of Starkville and has a better record than Ole Miss?
Well, I wouldn't think that'd be a shock considering all the experience coming back. And like I said, I think there's almost any team behind Alabama could finish 2 through 7.
Right. All right, let's get our final break in. When we come back, we're going to give you some tomorrow's headlines today, if there's any out there.
You're listening to Talkin' Ball on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
We're wrapping up this morning with a number of accidents. Governors in Harvard was our newest one. Had one in Decatur, Point Mallard, east of 6th Avenue, reported as an injury type. Nobody reported hurt. 565 eastbound at the Parkway. Old Madison Pike and Slaughter had injury. 231 North at Joe Quick had an injury. Winchester and Homer Nance had a motorcycle involved with an injury, and they should be about clear on Madison Boulevard at Wall Triana. Do you know who to call when you need a heart doctor? You could write this name down now so you have it in the future. Dr. Randall Burns is at Huntsville Heart Specialist on Bob Wallace Avenue, where they have the expertise to care for all matters of the heart. Captain Nick in the North Parkway Popeyes Skywatch Traffic Center.
At Bad Daddy's Burger Bar, people call the award-winning burgers totally insane, which is a compliment, because Bad Daddy's burgers are just that, chef-inspired expressions of pure burger amazingness built with premium Angus beef. They're bold and they're bad. Pair one with one of their signature cocktails or assortment of local craft brews. This Friday, you can get $50 worth of Bad Daddy goodness for just $25 with our zone deals. Log on 977ESPN.com to get your zone deal before they're gone.
McCurry Motors is your car and van rental headquarters. You can rent the vehicle you need today. Family in town, sporting event, church function, no matter what your need, McCurry Motors has you covered with a wide selection of cars and vans available for rent. They have 12-passenger Mercedes Sprinter vans, 12-passenger Ford Transit vans, 15-passenger Ford Transit vans, and 15-passenger Chevrolet Express vans. They have 2 locations, Highway 72 in Athens or Max Luther Drive in Huntsville.
Chapman Commercial Realty, your source for Alabama commercial real estate. Chapman Commercial Realty has the experience and expertise you're looking for when making commercial real estate decisions. If it's office space, retail space, investment property, or project development, Chapman Commercial Realty is your answer. Call Bill Chapman today at 256-656-8413. That's 256-656-8413. Or find them online at chapmancommercialrealty.com.
The Huntsville Sports Commission, a not-for-profit organization, is driven by the love of sports, and we're excited to announce several events already planned for this fall, including the Gulf Coast Conference Soccer Championship, the AVCA Fall Collegiate Beach Championships, the NCAA Division I Regional Cross Country Championship, and the Running Lane Nationals Cross Country. For the love of sports, the Huntsville Sports Commission. Find out more at huntsvillesports.org.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. You know, you'll hear people say we're like a family, but here at the Lackey Law Firm, that's really true, not just a saying.
I'm Justin Lackey. With my father and my sister, we have a special connection to each other.
I'm Jennifer Lackey. At the Lackey Law Firm, when we take on your case, you become part of our family. You really do.
And we'll always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life. More important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other, and at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4-RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
When you call most roofing companies, all you'll hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming. At Fleming Roofing and Restoration, we're focused on your needs, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement. Folks around here have trusted Fleming since 1965 for all their residential and commercial roofing needs. And as the area's storm damage experts, Fleming knows all the ins and outs of the insurance claims process. Log on FlemingHSV.com to schedule your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
From the Nick Saban Show.
We talk about finishing. You know, that's like the number one word.
To Alabama football.
Touchdown, Alabama!
We are 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. This segment of Talkin' Ball is brought to you by University Kia, the #1 volume Kia dealer in the state of Alabama. Located online at universitykia.com. It's time for tomorrow's headlines today with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
All right, welcome back. Talking Ball, 97.7 ESPN The Zone. your tomorrow's headlines today. Obviously, we told you about it to kind of end that last break there. But the big news coming out this morning, Serena Williams will retire from the game of tennis after the U.S. Open. So after her run at the U.S. Open, her time on the tennis tour will come to an end. 256-576-4977. That's the number to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. You can get in on the conversation this morning if you would like to.
Yeah, and real quick, too, Nate Oates and the Alabama basketball have been overseas, Scott. They just spent some time. They got one more day in Barcelona, Spain before going to Paris, France, and they had their first of 3 contests, the only one in Barcelona yesterday against a Spain select group, which they whipped soundly 108-64. Alabama gets the win. You could follow that on their Twitter account, Alabama Men's Basketball. Those updates were posted there. And, of course, we're the home of University of Alabama basketball here. The leading scores for Alabama is interesting. 3 of the starting 5 true freshmen from that number one or the top-ranked recruiting class ever in Alabama basketball history probably. Rylan Griffin from Texas, 19 points, 5 assists. He gets the Hard Hat Award from Coach Nate Oates. Brandon Miller, probably the most ballyhooed McDonald's All-American, 19 in his own right, 6 rebounds for him. He had an outstanding game. Noah Clowney, freshman from South Carolina, 12 points and 6 steals. Dominic Welch, the grad transfer, three threes from St. Bonaventure, the senior. He had 11. And then Namari Burnett, the young man who missed the season from Texas Tech with an ACL injury, 10 points, 5 assists for Namari Burnett. So Alabama impressive. They're going to spend, I think, today in Barcelona and then make the trek to Paris, France. They've got 2 more games left, and the next one will be, I believe, on Wednesday night.
Yeah, Auburn wrapped up their tour, actually taking on a team. Lots of times when you take on these select teams, they're really not a challenge. And Auburn yesterday took on the Israeli national team. Bunch of grown men, this one was. A couple NBA players on that Israeli national team. Auburn falls yesterday, 95-86. They wrapped up that tour there, 2-1. So I know Arkansas is traveling abroad as well. Alabama's abroad. Auburn went abroad. I believe Kentucky is in the Bahamas. I believe that's where Kentucky is at as well. So a lot of SEC teams taking advantage of this because basically it's just good time to practice. And you're taking on somebody outside of yourself on this, but it's a good time to practice. It gives you a little extra practice before camp starts, when you get back there, and instead of just scrimmaging and playing on your campus, plus you get to see the world as well. So, I mean, it's a good time to get out, enjoy a little sights, take it easy. You don't have that pressure of the season down on you when you travel abroad like this.
Yesterday, as you said.
It's basically these are fun things to do. They're not like competition games. I mean, you're just out there to see guys compete, kind of get your first look at who you have for the coming year.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you get a chance to take a look at your team against someone besides themselves, and you get a chance to measure where guys are. Then you have about 3 months to get them stronger, get their skill level up.
Yeah.
Auburn, of course, went 2-1. They played 2 overmatched opponents in Israel and then played the national team. And as you said, a lot of grown men on that squad, 95-86. Auburn trailed only by 2 at half. Jonai Broom had another strong performance with 18 for Auburn. Wendell Green Jr. Led them, I believe, with 19. And so they had 4 guys in double figures, and including K.D. Johnson, who mostly on this trip came off the bench, could have a new role as maybe a Vinnie Johnson type guy. We talked to Jason Caldwell about that yesterday. But Alabama going to face some stiffer competition over in France as well. So it's good for your team to see them in a competitive environment.
Plus you get to see the world. I mean, that's the best part. You get to do some sightseeing and some touring and enjoy a lot of this place. I mean, that's what they're doing. All right, that's going to do it. Atlanta Braves back in action tonight. Boston Red Sox in Boston. So make sure you stay with that. The Braves fall a half game back. The Mets won last night, so the Braves will start the night 7 games back of the New York Mets. 4 games, though, up in that wild card for the top wild card spot. So make sure you download the 97.7 ESPN The Zone app today so you can take us wherever you go.
If you're ready to lower your utility bills, it's time to call Eagle Insulation. Eagle can